Today is the author of Silly Santa, Sandra Magsalmon. Sandra, thanks for stopping by, and it's time, right? I'm sure when you were asked by Scholastic to write this, it felt great, right? Because anytime you can be part of Santa life and on the bookshelves, especially Scholastic, it got to feel great.
Absolutely. And thank you for having me here today. It was wonderful. We really talked about how can we share the story of Christmas and really specifically Santa, the main character of Christmas, in a new way. And I thought, why is Santa so merry and so jolly? And I thought because he's a really great joke teller and he likes to laugh. So the whole story and the whole book really came around thinking about why is Santa so merry?
So why is Santa so merry?
Because he likes to tell a silly joke or two.
And what do you think that's come from, Mrs. Claus, or is just Santa has to tell those jokes because of how much work he has to do on Christmas Eve?
He's the CEO of a lot of things. He like runs the whole world, for the whole year, and then he has to give out a lot of gifts. So he needs to, like laugh and carry on, and he's spreading a lot of joy. So that's part of his whole thing. So we decided we'd create a book around joy and laughter and fun and create something for little ones where they can sort of be the center of attention. Once they are read the book and they start memorizing the jokes, they're going to sit at the kitchen table or the dining room table around their family and friends, and they're going to be the star. They're going to tell the joke, get the laugh, and that's going to help them feel proud. They're going to have some agency and some, really feel like a big deal. So it's also really a great way to help make these memorable and meaningful moments around the holiday. Books are wonderful for that. And our Silly Santa is very interactive. Those little legs come off the top of the
Right.
book. He's coming through the
It's a
chimney.
beautiful book. It's a beautiful book. Absolutely. And people need to definitely check it out. But it looks like you have a lot of different books you've done in your career that are pretty interesting. But do you think Santa's the biggest of your books, meaning the biggest character of all the different holidays and different things you've done in your career?
Well, maybe. I mean, I think, that would be wonderful if people love this, our silly Santa as much as I do. I mean, I've been writing books for about 25 years. I started writing poetry for my daughter when she was born, and that work really kind of grew into this a book line that I do with Scholastic. I'm known for creating books that have novelty items. So if I'm doing a book called I Love You, Honey Bunny, our bunny is going to have three-dimensional ears that are stuffed ears, or I love you even when you're crabby. There's a crab on the cover with little crab claws coming out. Or I love you, little stinker. There's a wonderful little skunk with a big tail coming off of it. So I'm inventing new formats as a way to engage and be playful with kids as they read because we want kids to love reading. It's so important. So they're all loved in certain ways, but this holiday book is really
Yeah.
special, and holiday stories are really special. So I hope it's
Yeah,
loved.
absolutely. So what does Scholastic say? Because it's once it's written, it can go back every Christmas.
Yeah.
So what did they say to you on this kind of thing? Are they going to continue? I know this is the first launch, but are they going to constantly promote it? Because why wouldn't you?
Sure. I mean, I think they'll offer it to stores every year. And we're also next year coming out with sort of the next book in this series, which is called Silly Witch. So that's all about Halloween, and she's got a lot of funny
Oh,
jokes.
then see, there you go. You've hit another holiday. You
Yes.
think is this the other ones seem like they're just very novelty, but
Mhm.
this one here looks like more holidays you're going to start hitting, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, think about the Easter Bunny who likes to tell jokes, or the leprechaun,
Oh,
and so on. And it really is endless when you think about the characters that we share with our children around these holiday times that are so special, where people are gathering together, and that our little one gets to be the star of the show by sharing fun jokes and helping to make everyone laugh.
think about so I just thinking of the Scholastic books and the Scholastic Book Fair when I was a former teacher and to be part of that brand. How did you do that? Because this is something authors dream of. Then I want to go back into the book. But I just when I have an opportunity to talk to somebody, I'm sure a lot of people don't ask those questions, but I have lots of author clients. I have worked with authors for years and they're independent and they just never get that opportunity. What do you think led to that big break with Scholastic?
Well, I started working with Scholastic almost 25 years ago, and I was i- developing gift product and selling it at the New York Gift Show. I was an art therapist, and out of that work as a therapist, I began writing these little ceramic plaques with messages, little poetry on these plaques, beating them up with beads. And I was selling them handmade, and then I began licensing them. And I was at the gift show, and publishers came by and they started noticing how busy we were and that I was writing and I was writing for children. And I was invited to share an idea with Scholastic, with a publisher and the editor. And the editor I still have today. And it was a book that I was writing for my daughter, a poem that I wrote called "When I Grow Up, I Want to Be Me," because she was 12 at the time and she was really struggling. And she said, "Mommy, I don't know how to grow up. How do I go from 12 to being grown up?" And so we talked about the idea that you just really need to be yourself and you need to find out who you are, follow your dreams, believe in yourself, and reach for the stars. And so I wrote this book called "When I Grow Up, I Want to Be Me." And it was my first book that I published for children with Scholastic. I had published some gift books before with Stuart Tabori and Chang. So and that was known by my plaques. They came across, the work by seeing the work out in the marketplace. So, it's really one step at a time. And like anything, publishing is about relationships.
Right.
I'm in the same relationship with my editor 25 years ago. We've just become closer and closer, and we know each other, and we develop properties together. And you don't do a book by yourself, as you know. I mean, you're working with your editor, you're working with the art department, you're working with marketing, sales, the manufacturer. It all matters, and it's a group. It's a team sport for sure. And I've just been really, really lucky to have been a part of a team like Scholastic. It's a legacy brand
Right.
it's that they are as incredible as one might think they are. It's
For
a
children's books, Scholastic's the game because again, as you
yeah,
remember, you're going to the Scholastic Books Fair is always going to
yeah,
schools,
yeah,
and they figured out the marketplace because I mean Amazon's huge. Don't get me wrong, but ultimately getting in front of kids, especially the right audience all the time, and to have that brand of Scholastic. I remember doing a first interview. This is 15 years I've been doing this, and I started working with Scholastic years ago. And I remember, and it's just so real thing. So let's talk about. So I think this is even bigger for your brand.
But
Ultimately,
let me just say one thing. I, everybody's story of how they get to the publisher is different. And, mine happened to be through the gifts I was doing and the success I was having there. But I encourage people, if you have a story in your heart and you
go
want to
for it.
go for it, write the story, illustrate it if you can, find a friend to illustrate it, share it at the local school, go reading at the library, get it out there, because you can even then self-publish it, and Amazon and other venues have that ability to do it. And publishers are looking in those venues, they're looking for voices that aren't heard. But the most important point is share your creativity, get that out. Don't
Regardless
You
if
have
you
to
make it or
wait.
not, because you're at
Yes.
least you're sharing it. Did you hear the story that 90% of people want to write books in the world in the United States, but only 10% write them or 20? So it's like, and you could self-publish and then, but you got to grind and you'll
Right.
never know who's going to find you.
Yeah.
And then those relationships, for example, me working with NBC on a regular basis or Scholastic or all that is me getting out there, getting a syndicated show, but working and doing the grind and working hard to get these opportunities to get to interview major celebrities or someone like you and telling that story. But
And it's
I
one
think
step
this,
at a time. You're describing it's one step at a time on the journey. It's not all of a sudden you're, a mega star.
no.
You're,
And
you're
then
doing
who
what you
knows
love.
what's next in my career? I
Yeah.
don't know. But I
Right.
love do what I do.
Yeah.
And I figured out a way to make money through my agency. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you're doing something you love, you're going to, and you're good at what you do.
Mhm.
And I've heard people say I'm pretty good at what I do in interviewing people. It just comes,
Yeah.
like the light bulb comes on and it's exciting and it's fun and you never know.
Mhm.
Now, I think this is bigger for your career than anything because if you can hit those holidays, that's every year
Yeah.
that you can still promote that. So Scholastic might be done with the run, but it doesn't matter. You just pull out and say, okay, I have
Mhm.
how many places to go for Christmas? I mean, come on now and
Yeah.
sell your book. It's a game changer. I think holidays for you. I mean, I don't know if you think that is, but I think it is.
No, I think holidays are wonderful, and it's also wonderful introducing children to holidays. So, I've done a Halloween book, and it's a wonderful opportunity to share with the child what's so great about Halloween and how can they participate in Halloween. Because remember, it's all about helping families make these moments that really matter and memories that are going to last a lifetime. So, reading is part of
Yeah.
that. Shared experience is part of that. It's a lot mixed
And
together.
kids getting kids to read books and to continue to
Yes.
pick up that book. And that's what's so amazing about Scholastic, for sure. All right, so silly, give us one silly joke. I see. I always like to have a conversation in a story. Come on now, silly Santa. I would never have thought. Ho 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 ho! It's
Send is,
because of funny jokes. So tell us.
yeah. So as you see, there's little legs that come up
Yeah,
off the top of the book. So it's very
it's the most
interactive.
cute book I've ever seen.
It
Really,
says Santa what is Santa's dog's name?
I don't know. I'm not very good at these.
Santa Paws. And what do snowmen eat for breakfast?
I would say I don't know.
Frosted Flakes. And which of Santa's reindeers has the best moves?
I don't know.
Dancer, of course.
See, I wouldn't be able to hit these things. Well, this is great. But you came up with a lot of these ideas. You're the one that comes up with these. So that's
Sure.
what
Yeah.
makes it.
Yeah, and writing jokes for kids, it's fun because they have to be short. Little ones
Yeah.
can only remember so many words, and they're going to be repeating and mimicking after mom or dad or grandparents. And the answer just has to be there and funny and punny real fast. So,
You have
that
that gift. Is there anything else for your brand? What else do you want to accomplish in your career? If you're going to continue to be a Scholastic, do you have something else that's a legacy thing you want to do?
well, I do work with other publishers on different kinds of books. With Scholastic, I really work on board books that are interactive and some picture books. We're bringing back the first book I wrote 25 years ago with Scholastic next fall. It's called When I Grow Up, I Want to Be Me, and it has its anniversary next year. So that's coming back into the market. I'm really excited about that. And I'm working with Source Books, which is a wonderful company as well, out of Chicago. And I work with children here in our community in Vermont. We run a gardening program where we're really teaching kids where food comes from. They're planting and growing and harvesting food and learning how to make wonderful, delicious treats that are nutritional. But in addition to helping them be healthy, they're also gaining a lot of agency and self-esteem, and they're proud of the work they do. So I'm really engaged and involved in that kind of work. So that's what I'm loving doing right now.
You never know what's next. Anything to the big screen. Do you ever see any of these go to the big screen?
I would love to do that. I would love to work with a production company to make a series for preschool kids based off of the books that we've done, and bring some of our characters to life because I'd like to tell stories in other formats. I mean, as I've taken the book and kind of blown that up
Yeah.
into, in this invention of all these ideas, I'd love to do something similar in another media on television. That would be really exciting. And I'd love to collaborate on that. That would be
Oh,
fantastic.
I'm glad we're putting it out to the universe. Okay, best place people can go, Scholastic, to pick up the book, right? Or
Sure.
Amazon
And
or
your
any
local bookstores,
local
anyone
bookstore.
online, yeah, all that. Yep. I have an Instagram and a website you can go to. There's freebies on my website, all kinds of activity pages and coloring books and stuff like that for kids you can just download.
All right, thanks again, Sandra. Appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. Thank you.
All right,
Hope you have a very
you're
happy